Hello Internet and hello AuthorTube. So if you don't know, my name is Eve Daniels, also known as the Nerdy Nanny. You can't see all of that. I've been making YouTube videos for a couple of weeks now, so I figured I might as well introduce myself. I know I'm about 2 years behind the shark on this one, but I'm going to be answering Jenna Streety's AuthorTube Newbie Tag questions. Just so that you guys can get to know me. And so we'll see how this goes. I'm also going to try to film this all in one go because I'm still not that good at editing. So, alright, question 1. How did you find out about AuthorTube? I got recommended one of Kate Kavanaugh's videos just from deep diving into the internet. In my YouTube suggestions, and from there it was sort of a wormhole. I've been watching a lot of Natalia Leahy, a little bit of Great Fry, she's adorable, a few more YouTubers who have more practical advice, like social media marketing and how to design a cover. So I'll try to include all their information down below so that you can enjoy the same resources I have. And Savvy. I've been watching a lot of Savvy. It's nice to see a fellow children's author in the AuthorTube realm. So, hi Savvy. What genres do you write? Oh, well, answer that one already. I write kids' books, in case you couldn't tell. Mostly picture books at this point, but I am not adverse to branching out. I do eventually want to move into sort of chapter books and then maybe middle grade and who knows, maybe even YA in the future as my readers grow up and grow older. But for right now, picture books is where it's at, and that's where I'm having a good time. What is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? Well, I already said kids' books. Most of them are third person past tense. It sort of depends on the story, though. With kids' books, a lot of time you get a lot of third-person past tense, but there are also stories that are told from the kid's point of view and stories that are in future tense about what you're going to do. But yeah, so it sort of depends on the story, but most of the time it is third-person past tense. Are you a plotter, pantser, or plantser? I did not know what any of those words meant 2 weeks ago. So pantser, because I would just sit down and half an hour later I have most of a kid's book. It's a little different when you're writing picture books versus like chapter books or novels because the word count is so much lower, obviously. But that doesn't necessarily make it easier because you do go through a lot more edits and a lot more revisions, and it's just a different process. I am experimenting with outline now, especially I am participating in my first Camp NaNoWriMo. I can never do the real NaNoWriMo because it's in November, which is like a very bad month for me. I work in the service industry, so November is not a good time. So when I found out about Camp NaNoWriMo, I was very excited, and I was planning on working on one of my longer chapter books for that. So yeah, I've been experimenting with the whole outlining and planning what you're going to write thing, which is new. So we'll see how that goes. Are you self-published, published, or yet to be published? I don't really like how that question's asked. Are you self-published or traditionally published? I think it should be, because a lot of times people feel like self-published isn't real publishing, which is just not okay. Especially with kids' books, because kids don't really care where the book comes from. They just care if they like it or not. So I'm self-published, in case you can't tell, but intentionally. I wanted to make something and then put it out in the world and not have to really answer to anybody else about it before I put it out there. So that's not to say I'd never consider traditionally publishing, especially for some of the chapter books, just because I know it's easier to distribute them when you go through a traditional publisher, but So I'm open to traditional. Maybe I'll end up being hybrid, but for right now, I'm self-publishing and very happy about it. What publishing company, literary agent, and or printing company are you represented by or use? I already said I'm self-published. If you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house? Okay, well, I am published, but I'm self-published. But I guess if I was going to do the traditional route for the chapter books, I would probably want to go with someone like Sky Pony Press is a good one, just because they do a lot of really cute and either educational or inspirational picture books that I really like. Um, and because they're part of a larger in-house publishing network, you could always age up with them, I guess. I don't like the idea of bouncing around publishing houses. I know most authors do. Oh, the idea of that stresses me out. So I think I'm more of a one and done type of girl. I guess. I've never traditionally published, so I guess I can't say. But yeah, Sky Pony Press would be cool because I could do the picture books with them, and then maybe as I do chapter books or maybe even middle grade or YA, I would be able to stay sort of in-house and grow from there. Hope that answers the question. What AuthorTube related videos can we expect to find on your channel? I don't know. That's the short answer. I'm still figuring that out. Most of what I've done on YouTube is for kids thus far, for my readers, especially I'm also a nanny and a tutor, so a lot of the kids that I work with are stuck at home, so I did a couple of things to help them pass the time or help their parents help them pass the time, if we're being honest. So for AuthorTube, I guess I'd want to do useful advice because that's what I like watching. Just sort of things I've learned through marketing or through setting up a platform, working out your relationship with an illustrator. That's the big one. That's the big one for picture books. I don't know how many children's authors there are out there that are eventually going to see this, but establishing a relationship with your illustrator is one of the single most important things you're going to need to do if you're planning on creating picture books, assuming you're not doing your own illustrations, of course. Just because the kids, they're not judging the book by the words. The words come later. They're judging the story with their eyes. And the illustrations help bring your story to them in a way that they can understand and then follow the words. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so helpful videos, I guess. When did you start writing? I don't know. 4, 5? I assume you mean fiction, but yeah, 4 or 5? I can't remember not writing. Does that help? I know I wrote this little picture book in like 1st grade. I think my mother still has a copy somewhere. It's terrible, to be clear. I think there's a fairy involved. But yeah, I don't remember not writing. I do remember in like 5th grade or 4th or 5th grade, I wrote 75 pages of a fiction book that I wanted to get published at the age of like 10 or 11. So, forever. What was the first story you ever wrote? I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna go with the 75 pages that I wrote in like 5th grade. I don't think I ever finished it. I do remember that I'm a giant nerd. Okay, so I had learned about the Pleiades, which was a constellation, and it's the 7 sisters, and there was this whole thing with Zeus, and he threw them into the stars so that Orion couldn't stalk them because he was being all weird, and then Orion went into the stars to stalk them more because he's weird, and Zeus was like, we're not doing that, so he threw Taurus the bull into the stars, and at the same time I learned that when a star dies, you keep seeing the light for thousands of years, and I thought that was really cool. So I was like, well, what if one of the lights in Taurus went out, and it's because Orion stabbed him, and then the sisters had to run back to Earth, and they got reborn on Earth, but they don't know that they're actually nymph, goddess things. It was a long story, and I never finished it. I think it's still on a floppy drive somewhere, actually. Yeah, because we got a new computer, and the new computer had a whatever came after floppy drive. Was that CDs, or did we go straight to USBs? Anyone that's techie, correct me here. But I saved it on a floppy drive on the old computer, and then I couldn't figure out how to get it off and get it onto the new computer. So I think it's still in a drawer somewhere. If anyone's got a floppy drive, we could find out. All right. So, what authors have inspired your writing the most? Ooh, that's hard. That's hard because even though I publish kids' books, I write in a lot of different genres. So I guess we'll just go down the line. For kids' books, probably Shel Silverstein, A. Milne, definitely Astrid Lindgren. Getting a little older, obviously J.K. Rowling and Rick Riordan. I'm also a huge Margaret Peterson Haddix fan, and Diana Wynne Jones. More adult stuff, probably like Dean Koontz, but I also read a lot of Asimov and Steve Alton. I do a lot of sci-fi reading in my spare time. But the author that actually inspires me the most is, I'm not even sure if this counts because she's fictional, but I always wanted to be Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote. Miss Jessica Fletcher, author. I wanted to be her, without all the murder, because seriously, bodies dropped every week in that town. I can only imagine how real estate agents were able to spin it. Yes, we have some lovely schools. Also, the murder rate is about 3 people a week, but small details. So Angela Lansbury, I guess. Let's see. Do you schedule your writing sessions or simply get to writing whenever you can find the time? I don't have set days where I write, but I do try to block off time, if that makes sense. It's not like, okay, Tuesday is writing day. It's more like, all right, well, this Wednesday I have 3 hours between job 1 and job 2, so I still need to shower and eat something, and I need to close my eyes for at least 10 minutes or I'm going to lose my mind. So maybe try to block off 40 minutes for writing, and then when we get to Wednesday, we find out if that actually happened or not. Spoiler alert, it probably didn't happen. Do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything by hand? God, who writes by hand? It sounds exhausting. My hand hurts just thinking about it. I write on a computer. That's the short answer. I did have a typewriter phase. I feel like most authors have a typewriter phase, the romance of it. I grew out of the typewriter phase when I figured out that I could not get through a single page without making a mistake. And that drove me nuts. So, I use a computer. What are you most looking forward to now that you're a part of AuthorTube? Meeting other AuthorTubers, I guess, or other writers. It's really great to sort of be involved. I'm in the Kidlit community where I live, but when you're operating in person, you have a geographic limit as to how far you can go, and it's just really nice to talk with other writers and other authors and sort of share notes and experiences. And I'd love to collaborate on projects in the future, but I know most of the other AuthorTubers are novelists, so I don't know how many would actually be interested, but so I guess just, being a part of a community. That sounds cheesy, but it's hard to make friends when you're in your 20s, okay? Don't judge me. I guess that's it. Okay, so that was the AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I hope that that's helped you get to know me a little better, and I look forward to chatting with all of you digitally, not in real life. Stay home, wash your hands. And I hope that everyone's doing well and getting through this time as best we can, and be good. Bye.